So today we finally got Path of Exile's 3.16 balance changes for character defenses and recovery. And I wanted to quickly go through this and give you guys my initial thoughts over everything that is posted in here. So let's get started. We are doing a major balance pass to improve defenses and recovery for all characters. The goal here is to put more power into the core defenses, armor, evasion, and energy shield to make them the best way to mitigate the kind of damage they are best at preventing, while taking some of that power away from the one-off mechanics that provide a significant defense for too low a cost. While some individual mechanics have been nerfed, this is overall a massive buff to defenses across the board. And I love being able to see massive buff 2 days in a row. Previously, there were some very tanky characters, but they were gated behind specific niche mechanics and uniques that were not accessible to everyone. What we're doing here is moving a lot of that power to everyone else so that core defenses are far more powerful than they were before. We're also making sure that every type of character has plenty of ways to mitigate a much more diverse set of damage types. For example, evasion mitigates attacks well, so we're introducing spell suppression to help evasion builds protect themselves against spells. And here's the overarching problem they're trying to address. Dodge and blind provide more mitigation for fewer passive points and item slots than any other defense type. Attack dodge does this in a form that is almost identical to evasion, but is far more efficient. Their goal here is to remove dodge entirely and review certain powerful mechanics like blind and fortify for non-melee characters, and improve almost every other scalable defense type significantly to make them more powerful. This includes armor, evasion, energy shield recovery, and spell block. I think it's interesting here that they included spell block with all the other base defense mechanics. Spell block seems pretty difficult to get a significant amount of, and you have to usually invest quite a bit into your spell block to make it worth your time. But once you've made that investment, it's pretty strong. So I'm not entirely sure how they could buff spell block other than just making it more accessible, but I guess we'll see in a few minutes. And here we are with the first problem. Armor as a core stat doesn't provide sufficient defense with low to medium investment. Armor characters instead rely on a number of other mechanics to provide them with the defense against physical damage that armor is meant to provide. The solution is to improve the armor formula so that armor is more powerful, providing better mitigation across the board, and increase the strength of modifiers on items that add base local armor. Okay, so previously if you had 10,000 armor and you took a hit that dealt 2,000 physical damage, you'd reduce that hit by 20%. Now you reduce that hit by 33%. Interesting. A rule of thumb with the new armor formula is that if you want to get 50% mitigation against physical damage hit, you need 5 times the damage as armor, where previously it required 10 times the damage. As an example, if you want to mitigate a 5,000 hit down to 2,500, you used to need 50,000 armor to do this. Now you only need 25,000 armor. This is actually a significant change. Getting 25,000 armor seems like a lot, but it's actually not that difficult at all to obtain that much armor. And it's really not all that much more difficult to go above this either. They also increased the strength of modifiers on gear that add base local armor and added a smoother progression of tiers, as they were currently very low until the highest tier and had some levels where there was no new tier for a large number of levels. This will on average result in items with higher armor on them, especially during the campaign and early maps, and make it much more affordable to reach decent armor values. That's pretty crazy considering I was just saying that it wasn't all that difficult to get to higher levels of armor, and now they're just making it much easier, at least for the early game. Armor provided by base types can now be up to 10% higher as part of a variable base type system detailed below. Determination has been buffed to provide both a flat bonus to armor as well as its existing more multiplier to armor. It grants up to 2,051 armor at level 20 of Determination. I think it's about time that Determination got a fucking buff. New Suffix Modifiers have been added to all armor-based body armor and shields that provide up to 8% physical damage reduction on each slot. Jesus. Additional physical damage reduction mods were discontinued from all other rare modifiers so that large values could be provided on the above 2 slots. This is pretty interesting considering they're making it easier for you to get armor, but they're also making it pretty easy for you to get additional physical damage reduction just from having armor and shields. So it looks like you won't really need a super high value of armor as long as you have a shield and chest piece that have rolled these mods. New suffix modifiers have been added to all armor-based gloves, helmets, and boots that provide increased life regeneration rate. This works as a multiplier to your life regeneration value. And they also reviewed monster-based armor as a result of changes to the armor formula. This may result in no changes if there has been no significant impact on character damage. Oh man, I guess we'll see about that one. On to the next problem. Evasion doesn't provide sufficient defense. Evasive characters instead rely on the acrobatics and phase acrobatics keystones to provide attack and spell mitigation. The solution is to remove attack dodge entirely and substantially buff evasion so that it is a good option to make sure it is easily available on items. I was definitely not expecting them to just remove dodge from the game, so this is pretty insane. Let's jump into the details. So they've improved the Evasion Formula to grant more chance to evade for all values of evasion rating. To have a 75% chance to evade against a tier 16 map monster, you currently need 49,000 evasion rating to achieve this. You will only need 24,000 evasion rating after this change. To have a 75% chance to evade against a tier 1 map monster, you currently need 23,000 evasion rating to achieve this. You will only need 12,000 evasion rating after this change. They go on to list more examples here, but TLDR is it'll be easier for you to get to evasion cap. Increase modifiers on gear that add base local evasion rating and smooth the progression of tiers, as they were currently very low until the highest tier. This will on average result in items that with higher evasion on them, especially during the campaign and early maps, make it much more affordable to reach decent evasion values. And they've updated crafted modifiers to similar values and make them available earlier in the campaign. So basically they did the same thing here that they did with the armor, and they're making evasion rating more accessible and easier to get early on in the game. Evasion provided by base types can now be up to 10% higher as part of a variable base type system detailed below. The Grace skill gem now has you and nearby allies gain 20% more evasion rating at gem level 1 up to 29% at gem level 20, as well as its existing flat bonus to evasion rating. These changes make the aura very effective at attack mitigation if you've already invested in evasion rating. And they've also reworked evasion passives and adjusted monster base evasion and minion accuracy to compensate for changes to the evasion formula. All these changes are pretty crazy, but honestly, I'm really excited to hear and read about this spell suppression that they were talking about earlier. So let's start with the problem, which evasion provides no defense against spells. Their solution is to introduce spell suppression on evasion items as well as the dexterity section of the passive skill tree, which gives a chance to have spell damage taken. The chance can be stacked up to 100%. Convert existing sources of dodge and spell dodge to spell suppression or replace them with other bonuses. Wow, so I guess they might be taking phase acrobatics and just turning that into spell suppression? I don't know, guess we'll see in a second. Spell suppression is designed as the dexterity character's best answer to spells. In general, spell suppression gives easier access and more reliable spell damage mitigation for dexterity characters without reliance on specific uniques. It's also much more reliable than spell dodge, but has a lower maximum. There will be a few specialized ways to invest in increasing the spell damage suppressed to reward high investment if you want to further protect yourself from spell hits. I gotta say before we continue that I'm really excited that characters won't have to do weird and wonky shit to make their characters more tanky, and it's obviously like going to be this straightforward choice, like, oh, I'm playing a dexterity based character on the eastern part of the tree, well then I should go for spell dodge and evasion. I don't like having to sit there and think, oh man, should I like mix a little bit of armor in? How am I going to get fortify on my character? This takes like half of the thinking out of the equation and lets you focus on actually building your character to do damage, which is the more interesting part of the game, honestly. Okay, so spell suppression will be found on various passive skills in the evasion areas of the passive skill tree. The evasion wheel at the center of the passive skill tree no longer provides accuracy, but provides a combo of evasion and chance to suppress spells instead. New suffix modifiers have also been added to all evasion armors that can roll modifiers that grant a chance to suppress spell damage. Body armors and shields in particular can roll larger values of these modifiers. So it's just like the reduced physical damage taken mod that we saw on chest pieces and shields earlier as well, but just for dexterity based characters. New keystone passive skill added to the center of the tree called Magebane. Dexterity provides no inherent bonus to evasion rating. You gain a 1% chance to suppress spell damage per 15 dexterity. This looks like it'd be really worth taking, especially considering you don't need anywhere near as much evasion to make use of it now. Vault Grace no longer has chance to dodge attack hits or spell hits. Instead, it now has a plus 15% chance to evade attack hits, and suppressed spell damage dealt to you is unlucky. I'm curious what this means exactly, because the suppressed spell damage means you're taking a percentage of that spell damage. But what does that mean if it's unlucky? Does it mean that you just don't take it at all, or do you take even less damage? I don't know. Additional chance to evade modifiers were discontinued from all rare modifiers, passives, and Pantheon powers as their values were generally too low or felt out of place, and so that Vol Grace could provide a very large value of this stat. It changed Elusive to provide 15% chance to avoid damage from hits instead of its old dodge related stats. Change Wind Dancer to further improve high evasion builds rather than reducing evade chance, but making it riskier if you're not evading attacks a lot. It now gives less attack damage taken if you haven't been hit by an attack recently, and more evasion rating and attack damage taken if you have been hit recently. So it's better for evasion characters that have a high evasion rating, and bad for characters that are being hit a lot. It has no interaction with spells now to focus its interaction on evasion. I actually really like this change. I think it makes Wind Dancer way more interesting. Before, it felt a little wonky like some of the other keystones in the tree, so I'm excited to see this. Acrobatics has been redesigned. It no longer has any of its old properties, but now changes any modifiers of spell suppression into spell dodge at 50% of its value. Wait, what? The intention is that Acrobatics is the only source in the entire game for spell dodge for characters who would like to benefit from that playstyle still. Spell dodge is still capped at 75%, and the Keystone passive will specifically mention this. Phase Acrobatics no longer exists. Many other changes on top of those noted above to improve specific items, passives, and skills. So that's interesting. I don't know why you would rather go for spell dodge instead of spell suppression, but I guess if you still want to do that, that's there. On to the next problem. Due to armor and evasion not working effectively as primary defenses previously, we've introduced a lot of mechanics over the years that either scale them too efficiently or not well enough. The intention would be that the straightforward way of getting armor and evasion on your items is the best way to maximize efficiency. So the solution here is to review all mechanics that scale off armor evasion and all mechanics that grant large values or increases to armor and evasion. Vol Molten Shell will now grant plus 50 armor at gem level 1, was previously 25, up to plus 858 armor at gem level 20, which was previously 429. Jesus Christ. Buff no longer grants 20 to 29% more armor, and now grants 35% damage from hits is taken from the buff before your life or energy shield at gem level 1, previously 30%, up to 40% at gem level 20, which was previously 35%. This seems like a pretty big buff, but you're also losing the 20 to 29% more armor. But maybe it'll just be right around where it was before. The Brass Dome Unique is being redesigned to more properly embrace its identity of a high armor body armor while not providing as extreme of a difference compared to a rare body armor with top tier armor modifiers. I love this armor, so hopefully they don't completely butcher it. Memory Vault no longer grants gain armor equal to your reserved mana. Instead, it now grants 1% increased armor per 50 reserved mana. This is a pretty interesting change because it looks like you could get a high armor value if you have a lot of mana and you're also reserving some of that mana. I think it might be a little counterintuitive because I don't know how many players are actually going for a high mana pool and also at the same time reserving it, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The Formless Flame and the Formless Inferno now grant armor is increased by overcapped fire resistance, previously uncapped fire resistance. The Cracian's Carapace? Sorry, I'm an idiot. Now grants 2 to 250% increased armor, previously 3 to 350%. It provided just a bit too much armor compared to rares when considering all the other stats it provided. Transcendence. The Keystone passive skill now grants a larger penalty to all maximum elemental resistances, previously minus 5%. It doesn't look like they put the new value here, but maybe we'll see it in the patch notes. Mask of the Tribunal no longer grants nearby allies have 4 to 6% increased defenses per 100 strength you have. Instead, it now grants nearby allies have 1% chance to block attack damage per 100 strength you have. Interesting. Avatar of the Chase, Raider Notable Ascendancy passive, no longer grants 35% more chance to evade melee attacks during Onslaught, or 35% more chance to evade projectile attacks during Onslaught. Instead, it now grants 10% more chance to evade attacks during Onslaught. Wow. That is a significant nerf, but at the same time, with it being easier to reach evasion cap, it might not be that noticeable. The Snowblind Grace and the Perfect Form now grant evasion rating is increased by overcapped cold resistance. Its other stats are being improved. That's good. I like them saying overcapped instead of uncapped. It's just way more clear and not as confusing. Willow Gift no longer grants fortify buffs you create, instead grant 30% more evasion rating. Instead, it now grants 4% chance to suppress spell damage per fortification, but removes the less damage taken from fortification. Existing items will no longer provide evasion rating while you have fortify, though you will need to use a divine orb to obtain spell suppression from the item. Per fortification? I don't know what this per fortification thing is, but maybe that's something we'll read here in a minute when we get to the fortify changes. I don't know. On to the next problem. Characters who rely solely on armor are not protected against elemental damage. True. The solution? Add more maximum elemental resistances to areas of the passive tree that have armor in them. Oh man, you mean like the Soul of Steel node? That node got nerfed so many times. It'll be interesting to see where they add these nodes and how much max res we can get on the tree. You can already get an okay amount, but this could be pretty crazy. More access to maximum elemental resistances has been provided to armor areas of the passive skill tree in order to shore up the weaknesses of armor-focused characters. More information on passive skill tree changes will be coming later. I can't wait to see all the necromancers that will be pathing down to the armor side of the tree to be grabbing these. This next one is a two-parter. The first problem is the veiled modifier that increases quality on equipment was required to maximize the energy shield from an item. This is a problem because you cannot pick up the best energy shield items off the ground. Well, you can't really pick up the best items off the ground in general, but yeah. The second problem, stacking the energy from not notable passive on cluster jewels was too efficient as a way to maximize your energy shield. I mean, it was kind of efficient, but it was still a pain. You had to get the jewels, and then you had to invest all the passive points into them. So while it was efficient, you were still investing quite a lot, at least I felt like, just to get them. But their solution, replace the veiled modifier and lower the power on the energy from not notable. Compensate all characters for the loss of maximum energy shield by increasing the strength of all energy shield base types. Add more energy shield to the passive skilled tree. I like that. I like those changes quite a lot, actually. Energy shield provided by base types can now be up to 20% higher as part of a variable base type system detailed below. So this is basically just like the changes they made to the armor and evasion base types. The veiled crafted modifier that provided quality and strength, dexterity, intelligence no longer provides quality. This is to keep the top end at about the same while bringing lower investment energy shield up. Instead, it now grants up to 25% chance to avoid ignite, freeze, or shock depending on the attribute, also providing another way to allow characters to solve their element problems. So what about using a quality craft on armor to increase your odds of getting 6 links? This is an interesting change. Are there going to be other ones? There might be another one already. I don't know off the top of my head if there's another quality craft you can put besides this one on armor. If there is, then good, but if not, it's a little worrisome because Jesus, man, I think I spent like close to 7k fusings on a chest piece last league, and I really don't want to do that again. The energy from not cluster jewel notable passive skill now grants plus 60 to maximum energy shield. Added new passives that grant energy shield to various locations on the tree that didn't have many energy shield passives. That is one thing I've definitely noticed with the northern part of the tree, is that there really aren't that many energy shield nodes, and it always made you have to build your characters in a very similar way if you were going to have an energy shield focused build. So hopefully this frees you up on the tree a little bit. Okay, on to the next problem. With the desire to increase armor, evasion, and energy shield power across the board, we felt that the base values on items were too low. In addition, we feel that our item system needs more base type heterogeneity. Did I say that right? Heterogeneity.
Heterogeneity.
Heterogeneity. The solution to this is to make base types generated with a random 0 to 10% higher base defense as an inbuilt, currently non-modifiable property. This means that all base types can be better than they currently are, and armor base types are not homogeneous anymore. Energy shield values on base types instead vary from 0 to 20%. So this sounds a lot like the Diablo 2 Superior mod, but since Path of Exile already has superior items, you know, with whetstones and armor scraps or whatever, it looks like they can just drop with this unique modifier now for increased defenses. The next problem is energy shield is most often used with leech and regeneration like life, rather than embracing its unique recharge mechanic, and that's because recharge is a pain in the dick to get it right. The solution is to increase the base recovery rate of energy shield recharge, rework the downside of the Wicked Ward Keystone, move improvements to energy shield recharge to the core modifier pool for energy shield gear away from specialized item mechanics. Man, are we about to see an energy shield league? I don't know. This shit's crazy. Energy shield league, dodge is gone. Like, we're getting fucking spell suppression. What are we going to be playing, dude? Everything sounds like this opens up so much. I don't know. I'll shut the fuck up. Let's read the next part now. Energy shield now recharges at a base amount of 33% per second, previously 20%. The Wicked Ward Keystone passive skill no longer grants 50% less energy shield regeneration rate or 50% less maximum total energy shield recovery per second from leech. Instead, it now grants 40% less energy shield recharge rate. This brings the recharge rate with Wicked Ward down to 19.8% per second, while before it would have been 20% with or without the keystone. It also allows you to invest in other forms of energy shield recovery if you would like to do so, like including energy shield leech in your build. Well, energy shield leech isn't really that difficult to get usually. You just either anoint it or just grab it in the trees somewhere. I think most elemental builds that can make use of the leech pick it up somewhere. Recharge also has more avenues of scaling as mentioned below. This combined with the faster natural recharge is almost entirely a buff. I think Wicked Ward is something I haven't really used too much of, but you know, for the people that have used it, I guess this could be some pretty cool stuff for you. New suffix modifiers have been added to all energy shield based body armors and shields that provide up to 66% faster start of energy shield recharge on each item slot. Jesus. Crafted and influenced faster start of energy shield recharge modifiers on rings can no longer be obtained. Faster start of energy shield recharge has also been added to areas of the passive skill tree where energy shield is found, and crafted modifiers have also been added. New suffix modifiers have been added to all energy shield based gloves, helmets, and boots that provide up to 38% increased energy shield recharge rate. Crafted modifiers have also been added. Percent energy shield regeneration modifiers can no longer be obtained on energy shield based armors and are no longer in the influence modifier pool. The Ghost Reaver Keystone passive skill now prevents your energy shield from recharging, previously 50% less energy shield recharge rate. That's not really a huge change for Ghost Reaver now, is it? Because I mean, I guess you would typically just be leeching enough for that to not really be a problem. The Crusader modifier for gloves that provides increased maximum total energy shield recovery per second from leech now provides 15%, previously 10%. An increased maximum total energy shield recovery per second from leech has been improved on the passive skill tree, so energy shield leech is now stronger with investment. Really? Because I felt like energy shield leech before was already decent, especially since some spell hits could hit very, very hard. Unless if I'm just misunderstanding this, but that is interesting nonetheless. On to the next problem. Builds wanting to invest in both evasion and energy shield rely heavily on Ghost Dance, requiring them to be a trickster. Give everyone access to Ghost Dance as a keystone passive. What? Every 2 seconds, gain a Ghost Shroud up to a maximum of 3. When hit, lose a Ghost Shroud and recover energy shield equal to a percentage of your evasion rating. Cannot recover energy shield to above evasion rating. We're still deciding on the specific value. The Trickster Ascendancy will be changed as it no longer grants Ghost Dance. This is an amazing change, and I think it'll open up a lot of new build opportunities. On to the next problem. Builds wanting to invest in both armor and energy shield have no mechanic that gives a synergy between the two. This is factual. The solution: add a new keystone passive skill and add more hybrid armor / energy shield passives to the Templar section of the passive skill tree. Okay, I like this. This is exciting. New keystone passive skill called Divine Shield. Percentage of total physical damage prevented from hits recently is regenerated as energy shield per second. Cannot recover energy shield to above armor. We're still deciding on the specific value. Cannot recover energy shield to above armor. Okay, I like this. Maybe I'm too stupid to understand what this means. Energy recovery, or cannot recover energy shield to above armor. So I guess if you have like 5k armor, but you had like 7k energy shield, it wouldn't recover above the 5k. I guess that's what that's saying. But on to the next problem. Some areas of the passive skill tree, the shadow area in particular, have no defense against and very little life regeneration to overcome damage over time effects. They also just have very little access to life in general on that side of the tree, so just like more life nodes on the eastern part of the tree, please. That would just be fantastic. The solution is to improve life regeneration modifiers on gear and add a new keystone between the witch and shadow area on the passive skill tree to heavily dampen the initial impact of damage over time. They greatly enhanced flat life regeneration modifiers on gear to be closer to 2 to 3% of an expected character life at their level. Percentage-based life regeneration has been removed from non-unique equipment modifiers in the influence modifier pool. This is now reserved for uniques and the passive skill tree. The new keystone passive skill added to the shadow area is called Lethe. What? Lethe? Lethe?
Lethe.
Ha! Lethe. New keystone passive skill added to the shadow area called Lethe Shade. Takes 75% less damage over time if you've started taking damage over time in the past second. 100% more duration of ailments on you. So yeah, you're definitely going to want to get ailment immunity. All right, on to the next problem. A few specific mechanics grant a lot of life regeneration, especially with endurance charge stacking, but for many other sources, life regeneration is not very powerful. True! The solution is to remove various sources of life regeneration per endurance charge or lower their values, review effects that give life recovery rate and high values of life regeneration, add new passives in the strength area of the tree that grant life regeneration, and one source of increased life regeneration rate. Okay, so the next problem is shadow attackers don't have a form of life recovery that they excel at, while almost every other core character has a signature special recovery method. The solution is to add new passive skill clusters to the shadow area of the passive skill tree, allowing them to invest in combination of life on hit, life on kill, and life leech. This also includes a source of maximum total life recovery per second from life leech in the shadow area of the passive tree. I like that. I would still like some more just increase to maximum life nodes, but you know, this works too, I guess. The next problem, Witch and Shadow casters don't have an accessible form of life recovery. The solution is to add new passive skill clusters to the area of the passive skill tree between Shadow and Witch, allowing investment in life on kill and recouping a portion of damage taken as life. More information on passive skill trees changes will be coming later. The next problem is block is a pretty fundamental form of defense available to characters, seeing as it is available on shields, but the Gladiator Ascendancy is far more efficient for block investment compared to any other class because of the Gladiator's versatile combatant notable skill that grants as much spell block as you have attack block. The solution is to give everyone access to a weaker form of versatile combatant as a keystone passive and replace the Gladiator Ascendancy skill. Also improve how much block chance and spell block chance you can get from other sources. Ooh, baby, I like all this. Except I don't know, I guess we'll see what they're going to do with the Gladiator Ascendancy change, but I mean, this is all great. I don't give a shit what they do with the Gladiator change, honestly. Maybe it'd be kind of cool to get something more offensive. I don't know. Okay, so let's see. Versatile Combatant is now a keystone passive on the passive skill tree. Grants plus 2% chance to block spell damage for each 1% overcapped chance to block attack damage. Yikes. Also grants minus 25% to maximum chance to block attack damage and minus 25% to maximum chance to block spell damage. This means that if you have a 75% chance to block attack damage, allocating this keystone passive grants you a 50% chance to block attack damage, as well as a 50% chance to block spell damage. Jeez, man. More access to spell block has been added between the Templar and Witch sections of the passive skill tree. The suffix modifiers that grant attack block and spell block on shields have been improved, and new tiers have been added. These now grant up to 16% attack block and 15% spell block respectively at their highest tier. The Gladiator's Block Ascendancy passive skills will be reworked. We're experimenting with a new notable passive that makes the Gladiator's chance to block attack damage lucky, which helps offset the downside of a versatile combatant. We'll be making further changes to passive skills and the life granted by Bone Offering. So this is a pretty interesting change. I feel like it was already pretty difficult to get a high block chance, but maybe since the keystone is removing or lowering your block chance down to 50% as opposed to 75% at maximum block chance, that is, then maybe it'll be a little bit easier to get spell block chance above the 50% mark. But to be completely honest, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Let's continue and see if there's some changes down here that make it much easier. I don't know. The next problem is that the pool of modifiers available on shields includes some that have values that are too low or aren't relevant to shields. The power level of shield modifiers in general is also too low. Remove irrelevant modifiers from shields and add some really powerful ones. Okay, cool. Maybe this is where we'll be able to get more spell block or just block chance in general. But what about people who use staves? Don't forget about them, please. Modifiers such as chance to block projectile attack damage, chance to avoid stun, increased global physical damage, global elemental damage, global attack damage, flat mana gained on block, percentage life regeneration, and increased cast speed either felt out of place or generally did not have impactful values. This can no longer be obtained on various shields. These changes are meant to make shields feel more cohesive as a defensive piece of equipment, as well as to make their core modifiers more impactful. This will also make it easier to roll powerful shields and obtain shields with a specific modifier you're after. So this might actually just make it easier for you to get Shaper shields with Recover Life or Energy Shield on block as well. As mentioned above, modifiers such as block chance and spell block chance were significantly improved and new tiers were added. Block chance now goes up to plus 16% at its highest tier, and spell block chance goes up to 15% at its highest tier. So these values are basically double the amount you can currently get on shields, which is a pretty big deal. Okay, and we have added a few impactful modifiers to specific shield types. Armor-based shields can now roll high values of reduced extra damage taken from critical strikes, the value going up to 60% at the highest tier. Holy shit. Armor-based shields can now roll up to 8% additional physical damage reduction, which we've already read earlier. Armor-based shields can all now roll up to 100 life gained on block. Previously, only pure armor shields could roll life gain on block, but now this can also roll on armor/evasion and armor/energy shield bases. Cool. Evasion-based shields can now roll high values of a chance to suppress spell damage, taking up to 34% at its highest tier. Jesus! Evasion-based shields can all now roll up to plus 480 accuracy rating. Previously, only pure evasion shields could roll accuracy. Now their hybrid forms can roll it as well. Energy shield-based shields can now roll higher values of faster start of energy shield recharge up to 66% at its highest tier. Okay, I think they said that earlier already. And energy shield-based shields can all now roll increased critical strike chance with spells. Previously, only pure energy shields could roll increased. That's nice. Yeah, that's a nice little change there. Okay, on to the next problem. As a defense, blind was equivalent to an incredibly high level of evasion, with minimal character investment. It felt mandatory for all characters. The solution is to make blind synergize with evasion so that it's more powerful only if you have built a very evasive character. The power level of the new blind is significantly lower than before, but has more opportunities for further investment if you want to specialize in it. Blinded now causes targets to have 20% less accuracy rating and evasion rating. This change makes it so blind is of no defensive help to characters who have no evasion, but helps if you do. Okay, whatever, let's continue. It also has an offensive component, like if you want to lower the evasion rating of evasive monsters to make it easier to hit them. Blind effect is now available on the passive skill tree if you want to invest in it further. The Saboteur Ascendancy notable passive skill that is tied to blind is being reviewed, and Flesh and Stone is being changed as noted below. Nice. I was just thinking about the Saboteur Ascendancy and what this meant for them. So hopefully they still get a good defensive option because they're a pretty squishy Ascendancy. Also, I wanted to say something about this. It also has an offensive component like lowering enemy evasion rating. This is pretty interesting because depending on how easy it is to get or to buff this effect on the tree, it might be more valuable to invest in blind for your chance to hit than maybe stacking accuracy rating on your gear. I don't know. Okay, the next problem, because Flesh and Stone blinded nearby enemies, it was incredibly popular. The changes to blind have reduced its power, so now characters may be missing a low-cost defensive reservation effect. It was incredibly popular until they nerfed it and increased the reservation of the skill, and I think less people started to use it after that. But the solution is to reduce the cost of Flesh and Stone and change Tempest Shield so that it is a similarly powerful defensive reservation effect, alongside Arctic Armor and Flesh and Stone. The intent is that there are 3 competing defensive reservation effects that you are able to pick between or use together. I like that. I do. Flesh and Stone has been changed back to a 25% reservation as a result of the changes made to blind. Tempest Shield has been reworked to become a 25% reservation effect, and if you haven't seen it already, we did talk about the Tempest Shield change in the part 1 video, so make sure to check that out if you already haven't. Also, provides a large amount of spell block as well as an immunity to shock. It still has the property of shooting out lightning on block, and the damage has been significantly buffed. Dude, I tried to do a Tempest Shield build like 5 years ago when I was first like really getting into the game. I just love the idea of builds where enemies kill themselves when they hit you. It obviously didn't work, but maybe it would now. Arctic Armor was already buffed to provide an immunity to freeze. That's true. Arctic Armor is pretty OP now. Okay, and on to our last problem. Fortify is intended as a defensive benefit for being a melee character, but can often be obtained by spellcasters using melee weapon types that don't actually engage in melee combat. And we already knew about this change months ago, and it looks like this is the change they're sticking with. And they are changing the Fortify mechanics so its effects is based on your melee damage. It says they are experimenting with a system that lets Fortify be applied based on melee damage dealt, so that tiny little melee damage hits don't provide a full strength Fortify. This will mean that we'll be able to introduce a chance to gain Fortify on hit on passive skills or items, which we've avoided in the past. But we're working to avoid a system where every spellcaster wants to run Shield Charge to get Fortify at little cost. Well, using Shield Charge and other means to get Fortify was also kind of risky because you had to hit enemies to keep it up. But I still, not a fan of that playstyle at all, and I'm glad they're making these changes. Our eventual goal here is that all melee characters keep Fortify up reliably without a huge cost, while spellcasters and ranged characters won't have access to the mechanic without significant investment or being a champion. This is sick. I really like the idea of passives on the tree giving you a chance to gain Fortify, so you don't have to like use a link for it or socket it into your Leap Slam or anything like that. So I'm really looking forward to this. And this concludes part 2 of the 3.16 expansion balance changes. Tomorrow, we'll share part 3, which covers our plans for auras, curses, and elemental damage over time. Please keep in mind, as we're several weeks away from launch, elements of what we've written here may change after further playtesting, feedback, and iteration. There's plenty more to discover in our upcoming reveal of Path of Exile Scourge and its patch notes. This is pretty amazing stuff, guys. This, coupled with the flash changes from yesterday, this league, I already knew, and I've been saying this for like a month and a half now, that this league was going to be insane. I know that everyone last league was like, oh, I'm done with Path of Exile, I quit, I'm never playing it again. And I mean, I already knew they were going to come back the next league anyway, but after we had all those meetings with Chris Wilson and the streamers, I knew that this next league was going to be fucking amazing. And after reading these 2 posts, it's just solidifying what I already knew. The next post is going to be even crazier. I can't wait to see the damage over time stuff. I personally love damage over time builds, but I've always, especially in recent times, felt like they were a little bit more difficult to get them to work. So with the new defensive changes and with the buffs to flasks and all this, I mean, I might be playing some sort of Ignite build on start, but we'll just have to see. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and make sure you keep an eye out for part 3 of this series. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you there. Similarly, oh fuck, I can't read.